Before Panera ruled the lunch crowd, there was another fast casual giant quietly taking over America, Atlanta Bread Company. With over 170 locations at its peak, it was on track to become a household name. Well, until it crumbled. Today, it's barely a shadow of its former self with only 10 locations remaining. So, what happened? Join us while we go over the fascinating history of Atlanta Bread Company. Before we get started, please make sure you are subscribed to the channel and hit that bell icon to be notified when new videos are released. Atlanta Bread Company began in October 1993 as a single bakery cafe in Sandy Springs, Georgia, part of the Atlanta metropolitan area, founded by brothers Robert and Richard Offenberg. It offered fresh-baked bread, soups, salads, and sandwiches, all in a warm, cozy atmosphere. It was the perfect place to grab lunch, study, or meet with friends. In a time when fast food casual dining was still in its infancy, Atlanta Bread stood out. In 1994, a former investment banker by the name of Jerry Kovaras moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and discovered the restaurant. He would later become manager of a restaurant location in Marietta, Georgia. By 1995, Jerry Kovaras was appointed as the Atlanta Bread Company's president and chief executive officer, while his younger brother, Basil Kovaras, became the chief operating officer. Also, that same year, the company would begin franchising, and the growth was explosive. The Kovaras brothers were selling franchises under the Atlanta Bread Company name and would eventually purchase the company from the Offenberg brothers. By the late 90s and early 2000s, the company had over 170 locations in more than 25 states. But behind the scenes, problems were brewing. Lawsuits between the company and franchisees started to pile up over claims of mismanagement, unfair practices, and declining support. The company's former owners filed a lawsuit in Fulton County sometime around 1998, alleging that Jerry Kovaras took over the financial operations of Atlantic Bread Company and then lied about the company's finances as part of a plan to persuade them to sell their interests at a grossly inadequate price. Kovaras eventually denied the allegations in a response, claiming that he turned around a company that faced serious cash flow problems. The case was settled in 1999, resulting in the company agreeing to pay millions of dollars in royalties over a 15-year period. In March of 2004, President and CEO Jerry Kovaras was arrested in South Africa for allegedly swindling South African investors out of $5.5 million. This was related to a money investment scheme that collapsed after two companies were reportedly liquidated 12 years prior. His brother Basil would later surrender himself. An outside consultant, Rick Erez, was appointed interim president temporarily to help his franchisees ease their concerns. The brothers would later plead guilty to a reduced banking violation and paid a total of $310,000 in fines. In another major legal dispute, former Atlanta franchisee Sean Lupton Smith sued Atlanta Bread in 2006 after they terminated his ownership of 5 stores, claiming he violated the franchise contract by opening a PJ's Coffee and Lounge in Atlantic Station. The Georgia Supreme Court ruled in 2009 that Atlanta Bread's non-compete rules were too broad and unenforceable. Lupton Smith won $5.5 million in the settlement during the depths of the 2008-2009 recession, when the company was borrowing more money and taking other actions to conserve cash. During the 2008-2009 recession, up to 27 locations ceased operations, along with the Atlanta Bread Company itself terminating the franchisee's rights to run 17 others. By this time, the firm has sued franchisees or been sued by them 8 times since the year 2001. One great example was a man by the name of Nino Russo, who had dreamed of someday owning several Atlanta Bread outlets. He bought an existing store in downtown Decatur from Atlanta Bread in 2004 for $500,000 plus a $40,000 franchise fee. Instead, the store failed in 2009. Russo and his wife lost their savings, and the SBA foreclosed on their Ackworth home. Russo said the restaurant struggled from the beginning with an unfavorable location that only grew worse when it lost access to customer parking as the result of a neighborhood redevelopment. Russo was working massive hours to keep the restaurant going. But when he finally closed the doors, he was shocked to hear that Atlanta Bread had about half as many restaurants as when he first bought in. By the 2010s, Atlanta Bread had gone from over 170 locations to just a handful. While some independent franchises stayed open, the brand had lost momentum. The chain was down to 74 locations by the year of 2012. Jerry Kovaris eventually conceded that his company may have grown too fast, causing it to pick franchisees who culturally were not a good fit. He also stood by the company's position to push franchisees, starting in 2006, to retool their stores to offer more private and inviting spaces where customers would linger. The renovations, which are due every 5 years under the franchise contracts, cost $80,000 to $250,000. Many franchisees didn't agree with paying the cost for the corporate change, which included a layout change from open to divided spaces, replacing hard benches with soft, changing the gold and black color scheme to red and green earth tones, and changing the menu. AJC later reported that 25 locations had closed rather than pay for the remodel. Despite claiming that the company was profitable, Kovaris would never disclose same-store sales and profit figures. Looking back at news articles from the years 2015 to 2024, dozens of locations were closed due to market pressures and competition from other fast casual restaurants, such as Panera Bread and Corner Bakery Cafe. Today, only 10 Atlanta Bread Company locations remain, scattered mostly around the Southeast. Some are privately owned and operated under loose affiliation. 4 of these locations are in the world's busiest airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport, and concourses A, B, C, and F. Although the brand still exists today, it's no longer the national name it once aspired to be. Atlanta Bread Company's story is a cautionary tale. Rapid growth without solid foundation can crumble just as quickly.